Hello everyone, welcome to the second session in our series which is based on relational database. This session is more of a conceptual session in which we will be learning about concepts, but from the coming session we would be focusing on the practical side as well. So in this session we would be learning about all the basic concepts that we require before moving to the practical side. Okay, so let's start with this session. Now over here, in the last session we already got an idea what is a relational database. Basically, in a relational database, data is stored in form of tables. Okay, tables which are made of rows and columns, right? This is clear from the last session as well, right? Now over is an example of a table in a relational database. Okay, so this is a table. Okay, table which is storing our data. Now in this table we have four columns, right? You can see we have four columns have three rows, right? We have basically three rows. I'm not counting this one. Okay, I'm counting these rows. Why I'm counting that, I will explain that as well. Okay, and we have three rows. Okay, one second, let me draw a better picture. Right now over here what I'm trying to say is we have four columns, right? That means we have four categories, correct? Now columns in a relational database is known as attribute. Okay, so basically in the table, the above example, we have four different attributes. Okay, and why am I considering only three rows? Because in this row we are only giving attributes, right? We are just writing the name of the attribute, but these three rows actually contain the data, right? Data of three different students, right? Alice, Bob and Karen. Okay, so three rows. Okay, so with this I hope the concept is clear. We which have the data, and we have four attributes which are the columns. Okay, and this is the format in which data is stored in relational database. Okay, so I hope this is clear, right? Now let's move forward. Let me clean this up. The very important concepts that we need to learn in this session is keys. Okay, now we already got an idea about what is table, what is row and what is column, right? Now another important concept is keys. This word was also referred in the last session. Okay, now let's revise what does key mean. Okay, that will set a relation between two different tables. Okay, so this is a thing that helps us in setting relation between different tables in a DB, that is database. Okay, now key is not a one type. Okay, there are multiple keys which help us in setting different kind of relations. Okay, now I hope this is clear, right? Now let's dive into this topic. A very important thing to note over here is that keys is a very important concept. Okay, and it is a little difficult to understand. So in this session we have concept, right? Because once you learn the concept, I can make sure I can assure you. So basically what I'm trying to say is so basically if you guys learn the concept about keys, you can easily implement that. Okay, because keys is a super important topic. Okay, now let's start with the different kind of keys. Now the first is the primary key. Now the name says primary, right? Means something important. Okay, primary means something important. Basically primary key is an attribute. Okay, it is an attribute. Basically attribute means column. Okay, it is an attribute in a table which has no null value in this. That another important point is all the values in this attribute is unique. Okay, there is no null value in this attribute and all the values are unique. Okay, and this is used to uniquely identify and table. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now let's find out which attribute will play the role of primary key over here. Okay, so let's see, we have 4 attributes: student ID, name, age and major. Okay, now see, major cannot be primary key, right? Because different students can have same major, right? So this is not a primary key. Age, right? Again, this is not a primary key because multiple students or multiple users can have the same age. Students can have the same name, right? Now we have student ID. Okay, 2 students will not have the same ID, right? Because student ID is an attribute which is used to uniquely identify each and every student, right? So this cannot be null. It will have no null values. Okay, it will have unique values. Okay, so basically student ID is our primary key, right? With this example, I hope the concept of primary key is clear, right? So now let's move forward to the second type, right? So let me clean it and let me scroll down a little. Second. Now the next key which we need to learn is foreign key. Okay, now what is foreign key? Basically, in foreign key we require 2 different tables. Okay, now over here, let's say we have these 2 tables. Okay, let me remove these drawings. So we have these 2 tables. This is student table, okay, and this is the course table. Okay, now here we have different attributes in both of them, right? Now student ID, if you remember from the above example, is the primary key, right? This unique attribute with no null values, right? But if you see in course table, student ID, right? Now basically ID we have course name and student ID. If I think carefully, a student can enroll in multiple courses, right? So if I have 101, a student, right, he can enroll in maybe 2 to 3 courses, right? Correct. So student ID over here in courses table is not unique, right? It is not unique. Basically, student ID in course table is not unique. That means it is repeating, right? It is repeating multiple same student ID over here, right? Because a student can enroll in 2 to 3 courses. Now in one table, student ID is primary key. Table, it is just a normal attribute, right? It is a normal attribute, right? This is a normal attribute, correct? So basically in the current situation, student ID has 2 roles. One is of primary key in student table and one attribute in course table. So basically student ID is actually a foreign key, okay? Not, okay, like this. So basically student ID is actually a foreign key. So basically foreign key is used to set relation between 2 different tables, and we choose an attribute which plays the role of primary key in one table while it plays the role of a normal attribute in another table. Such attribute is known as foreign key. Okay. So with this, I hope the concept of foreign key is clear, right? Now let's move forward. Scroll down 1 second. Okay, now next is candidate key. Okay, now what I mean by candidate key is, let's understand. Okay, this table, if I see carefully, student ID is primary key, right? We already know that. But if I see carefully, email can also be a primary key, right? Email can also be a primary key, correct? Name cannot be, age cannot be, major cannot be, but email can be a primary key because every user will have a unique email ID, right? Now, candidate key is collect different attributes which can be, okay? So multiple attributes can be primary key, okay? they are known as candidate key. Okay. Now, both of them are actually a candidate key. Okay. Both of them are actually a candidate key. But if I see carefully, student ID is actually a primary key, right? While email is not a primary key. What I'm trying to say is all candidate keys cannot be primary keys. Okay. Candidate keys cannot be primary keys, but all primary keys are candidate keys. You understood this, okay? All the primary keys are candidate keys, okay? But all candidate keys are not primary keys, okay? So I hope this is clear, right? I hope this point is clear. Now with this, I hope the concept of candidate key is clear. So with this, let's move forward. Now let's move forward to another key, which is alternate key. Now let me just scroll a little bit down, right? And let me clean this. Let's move forward to another key, which is alternate key. Now what I mean by alternate key? Now from candidate key, we learned that all candidate keys cannot be primary key, right? Now in this example, we had two candidate keys, one which is student ID and another which is email, right? So student ID and email, right? If you remember carefully, student ID is primary key, right? Student ID is primary key. But email is not primary key, but it is still candidate key, right? Now, all those candidate keys which are not primary key are known as alternate keys. Okay. So, email is alternate key, okay? I hope it is clear. All the candidate keys, primary keys, are known as alternate keys. So basically, email is an alternate key. I hope this is clear, and with this, the concept of alternate key is also clear, right? Let's move forward. Next key that we need to learn is composite key. Okay, now what is composite key? Composite key means that we can join two or more than two attributes together. Okay, we can combine two or more than two attributes together to make primary key. Okay, just for an example, think we do student ID. Okay, and over here I have name. Okay, name and age. Okay, correct. Now because I do not have student ID, I do not have an attribute which will uniquely identify this table, right? Now what I can do is, if I think carefully, we can join two or more than two attributes to uniquely identify a table, right? For example, if I join course ID, and let me add one more thing over here, let's say email. Okay, right? Now what I can do is, I can choose course ID, I can choose enrollment date, and I can choose name. Okay, I can choose these three attributes together and I can uniquely identify a table, right? Because course ID, then I have enrollment date, okay, and name. Okay, it cannot be same for all the users, right? So instead of one attribute which was uniquely identifying the table and which was the primary key, if I am unable to find such attribute, what I can do is, I can join two or more than two attributes together to make a composite key which will play the role of primary key, because the actual primary key is missing from the table. Okay, now this was an easy example. I hope you got an idea of composite key, right? We can join two or more attributes to make our own primary key. right? With this, I hope the concept of composite key is clear. Now let's move forward and let's learn about the last key for the day, which is unique key, right? Now the name itself is telling about it, right? So let's see. Basically, unique key means an attribute which will have only unique values. Okay, now you can say that isn't unique key and primary key same, right? Are they not? Actually, they are not. Okay, let's see what is the difference. Unique key, primary key. In unique key, we have unique values. In primary key, we have unique values, but the difference is, okay, we can have null values, but in primary key we cannot have any null value. Okay, so that is the difference. In unique key we can have, in primary key we cannot have null values. Okay, so with this I hope the difference is clear, right? Now in this table, employee ID is primary key. Okay, name is a normal attribute. But if I think of email, maybe a user has not written his email ID, right? Maybe a employee has not given his email ID. That means it can have a null value, but email ID for each and every user in a company will be unique, right? So this attribute, email, is a unique key. Okay, because it can have null values, but all the values should be unique. With this, I hope the concept of unique key is clear and you guys have gotten a basic introduction to relational databases. In this session, we learned about the concept. In the next session, we will be downloading SQL and we will be starting with the concepts of relational database. We will be implementing them practically. We will be building our own tables. We will be implementing the keys that we have learned in different tables, and we would also learn about DDL, DML and DCL. Okay, that is data manipulation language, data control language, and data definition language. Okay, we all are gonna learn that in the upcoming sessions. I hope you guys have enjoyed this session. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you.